plethora of new members amid the returnees. Another noteworthy fact is that Nigeria stagnated. Only 15 of the 423 legislative seats declared so far by INEC will be occupied by women, while 408 will be occupied by men. In other words, women represent just 3.5%, while men represent 96.5% of the 423 seats in Parliament. Now, this raises more concerns about the lip service paid to affirmative action as well as gender and equal opportunity in the country. There are also concerns that since the majority of the members of Parliament will be new, this could impact legislative process in the National Assembly. Joining me now to discuss this further is the head of Department Political Science and International Relations at the University of Abuja, Dr. Sharif Gali. Now, you look at, let's start with female representation in Parliament, Doc. Just 15 members, 15 women so far. We don't know, maybe there will be more when the other elections are concluded, but just 15 women in Parliament so far. That is really poor, under 4%.
That's actually a flinch back on democracy in Nigeria, because when African states as well as European entities have been struggling to make sure that they make politics all-inclusive, having more women participation in the process of decision-making. And in our attempt, parliamentary coming, we are having a kind of less number of women, even though in the 2023 general elections, we had just like 5% margin between male participation and female participation in the elections. But this does not actually depict a good journey democratically in terms of women participation in the country. I hold the belief that if women are actually allowed and given more opportunity, though the opportunity has been given, just that the women went into hiding because we have not really seen them. So what we expected was the women to show their interest to actually participate. They get screened up at the party level, as well as rub shoulders so that in the long run they get elected. I wholly believe that our policies will be more responsive, will be more mass targeted if we have more women in the policy making process. We're going to have more diplomatic ties, more meaningful diplomatic ties. Why? Because women are good diplomats when deployed to serve. We're going to see more responsive foreign policy gesture in terms of our relationship with the outside world. This is going to define more peaceful foreign policy as well as domestic policy. Why? Because women, as you know, they are not actually belligerent. They always try to pursue peaceful policy.
Okay, now I get your point. I get your point, Doctor. But I mean, there's no question at all, as to the impact better women representation now could have in governance and all of that. But the reality is that they are far underrepresented in Parliament. And I'm just wondering, don't you think it's time, for instance, we came up with a legislation that will prescribe, we'll have it written down now, prescribe the number or prescribe a certain percentage or a certain number that political parties, certain number of women now that political parties should field as candidates in elections? Because I'm just wondering, if we were to just leave this open, do you think this issue can be redressed?
Democracy is a process of freedom, willful expression of interest, as well as the right of people protected. So if we're going to have this under duress, it's like
but this is not a question of having it under duress. And that's the whole concept of affirmative action anyway. I mean, remember the Beijing Declaration and all of that. I'm just saying this is not a question of having doing it under duress. But can't we just pass a law, have a law that says, look, in Parliament, there should be so and so number of female representation. Say, look, even if you want to say 10, 15, 20%, then you know that the political parties will have no choice than go after female candidates, for instance, for setting positions.
The political process is always evolutionary. It is of an evolutionary process. Probably the level of maturity or maturization of women to come out into political participation is not actually duly and well matured. So what we need to do is sensitization and further reorientation of our women, incentivizing them to actually accept the fact that their participation matters for nation building and national development. So having the process mandating the political parties to have a particular number of seats, for women.
Yes, reserved for women.
It's like, a kind of deviating from democratic concept. Why? Because as I argued earlier, democracy is all about freedom.
No, but how is this deviating from democratic norm? I mean, is it not part of democracy if you have a law, and this is a law that the lawmakers will have to make, they will sit down and debate, and then is it not the beauty of democracy? Because if you say you're leaving it open, we are in a society where, whether we like it or not, however we want to pretend, there's just no equality. There's no equality between just throw it open and let the women compete against the men.
JG, it's good we leave it open because there is suffrage, all able men and women who have attained the level of maturity can actually vote and be voted for. We saw this in the UK from 17th century. We saw this in the United States only in the 18th century, and Greece later followed suit, supposed to fill the gap.
Really?
So what I'm saying here is I'm advocating for making it open. What we'll do is to call further for openness and women reorientation and incentivization so that our women will actually have that particular courage to come out to actually stand to be voted for in terms of elective position. So it is already there. The law has already provided both men and women, who aspire to occupy political positions, should actually contest. It all depends on the political process, party level screening, who the electorate think, that is from the primary level, to the general elections, the electorate will actually decide either male candidate or female candidate, but not actually to make it like an imposition or to impose it on political parties to do that. It is better we have open mandate, open process.
I'm very sure some women will not agree with you. But let me just ask you this. You look at the diversity we're going to have in the National Assembly now. More parties are now represented, are going to be represented now in the next parliament. How good is that for our democracy?
Yes, of course, that actually envisages a good opposition. Why? Because democracy envisages opposition as well as periodic free and fair election, even though that is more theoretical. So if we have the Labour Party, the PDP, the NNPP, as well as the SDP, within the framework of the parliamentary structure, it means that our democracy is beginning to actually accept and embrace opposition. Means that we're going to speak with multiple voices, in the National Assembly, thereby making critical argument for a law to be made. So it means that this law will actually represent divergent groups, different political organizations, and variegated bandwagons of interest. So this is a great thing we can say. Why? Because democracy cannot actually mature. It cannot thrive without opposition. It means that it is not only one voice, and many people are being represented. And the beauty of it all is that it is the parliament And if you have a parliament which is constituted by divergent political parties, it means that it is a democratic parliament, multivociferous symbols parties such as the PDP. It is an ideal situation to have more political parties represented at the National Assembly. It means more Nigerians are being represented at the National Assembly.
Well, we also have to hope and pray that some of these lawmakers don't defect. You know how they do it. So let's just hope and pray that they stay in their parties and they do not defect along the line. But I mean, let's look at the other side of the coin. In the Senate, you have 109 senators at the moment as we speak today. 62 of those senators are going to be new senators. In the House of Representatives, where you have 360 members, 222 are going to be new members. And that number may change because we still have some elections that are yet to take place. Now, so you look at the overwhelming majority of the members of parliament will definitely be new members. I'm just wondering, don't you think that may also affect the quality of legislation that will come out from parliament, at least for a while?
The beauty of democracy, Deji, is to have periodic elections. And it doesn't matter who is old or who is new. Those who are coming new, they are going to go for induction courses. They're going to go for training. They're going to visit other parliamentary, deliberations, outside the country. They're going to go for workshops. So therefore, and they have experienced colleagues. It's just for them to have a kind of 1 or 2 sittings and they become conversant with the whole process. And they're not going to stand, isolated. They're not going just to stay without studying the whole legislative process. The quality of patriotic lawmakers, responsible and responsive, and those who care about the people they represent, not just those who will actually conspire with the executive. Whatever the executive says is final. That is why we had a kind of, crisis in the, let's say, 8th Assembly, where the members, so to say, perform below expectations, as perceived by their constituents. And that is why they were welcoming them with tongues whenever they got home. So the 9th Assembly, they all intelligently try executive is put in making sure that the Electoral Act, as well as the issue of electronic, passage, transmission of election results, is being actually done. So we want a legislature, a parliament that truly represent their people, not just to actually collapse their functions with the function of the executive, or to be lured or swayed by the judiciary or any organ of the government. So if we have these new members, it means that democracy is at work, because these are new lawmakers ushered by their own constituent to come and represent them. It's a kind of political reshufflement. Probably the emergence of new political parties, which have been accepted and embraced by the people, that automatically determine the coming of new legislatures.
All right, Dr. Gali, I think we'll just have to leave it there. I want to thank you very much for coming on the program and for sharing your thoughts with us. Thank you so very much. All right, we'll take a short break. We'll be right back.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the President of the Federal Republic.
We know where the enemy is. 3 places. The Lake Chad Basin, the border area between Nigeria and Cameroon, and then the Sambisa Forest.
On TV360, we give you a complete dose of everything. Opinion, facts, and undiluted truth.
I hardly believe what politicians say in this part of the world.
A new Nigeria is possible, a future is possible.
We delve into the issues, dissect it so that you can understand it, use it to take action.
I don't think there's any need for any governor to look for grant for ranching.
TV360, dissecting the issues.
All right, welcome back. Let's continue the discussion now on the low number of women lawmakers in the coming 10th Parliament from a female perspective. Now, I'm now being joined on the program by the Treasurer, Nigeria Bar Association Section on Public Interest and Development Law, MBA Speedo, Fumi Adeogun. Thank you very much, Fumi, for joining us on the program. 15 in the 10th Parliament, that's the 10th National Assembly. How worried are you by this?
Well, thank you for this discussion. Actually, I'm not impressed about the low number of women we have, because it's really going to affect a lot of things. The change we women want, we're not going to get it. Because, you know, everything they do over there, they put it to vote. And once they put it to vote, if you don't have the number, then you can't have your decision. So that's my worry, because a lot of things we really want to change. We really want to change the narratives against women. We see so many things happening to women, the female gender. It's so sad that at this age, you still be seeing some tribes forcing some young girls into marriage. You see some saying, oh no, you cannot inherit your father's inheritance. Despite the fact that we have court judgments that nullify that, is still happening. So, and it is when we push ourselves, when we have representatives there, they can make law, they can change things for us. But it's so sad that we don't have a good number. And I think on our part, we women, we are doing a lot, you know, to create the awareness that we need to be there, we need to put ourselves forward, and we need to represent ourselves. And then I know we have, and to support fellow women or women that are going into politics so that we can change the narratives. You know, so many women are being discouraged to go into politics because of the stigma. They see you as prostitutes. They will say you cannot. So many things, so many negative things out there. But we have come together to say no. Anywhere we think women should be in any place, you know, to make law for them. And we think we are supposed to be there.
And especially in the Parliament. Is it not time that that the field should just be thrown open for everyone to contest? And I'm wondering, will that be fair?
Thank you very much. You know, the theme for International Women's Day for this year is embrace equality. And if actually in my own association, people to represent us to be the board of, we should throw it open. What about if the women are not interested? You can give women 40% and take 60%, and they will see that change we need in that country. It will come, and it will come faster than anybody would have ever expected.
Why do you think this is a difficult thing to do? Because for me, I think it appears the most reasonable thing to do, but we've just not been able to do it. Why is it difficult to come up not just in Parliament, even in the Executive Council? You look at the various Executive Council of the various states of this country, sometimes you don't grossly underrepresented at the federal level.
Yes, like I said, until we have a law that we make it mandatory. If we don't have, then there is nothing anybody can do. Because even as at that place they are making that law, they will have to put it to a vote. It will not happen. That is why the first step we have to do is to push ourselves. The competent women, let us support them to be there first. Once they are there, then I want to believe is because, you know, to them, like I served in Jigawa State, and I could remember an encounter I had. When they were doing an exam, I had to, you know, supervise, and I had to caution this student when he was cheating, and he had to tell me that, Tom, I have like 3 of you at home. I'm talking of 2006. You can imagine. So they think women cannot even, you know, they should not even be there when they are talking, because they put them at home. They take care of them. So they see them as, I don't know. Men have really to change their thinking and their perspectives, you know, of women. They need, we should be there to complement them. We should be there to give them an idea, to give them what they really need to make the country work for everyone.
And I think I fully agree with you. Thank you very much, Fumi Adeogun, the Treasurer, MBA Speedo. Thanks so much for coming on the show. Well, that's how much we can take on the program this week. But thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week. Bye-bye. Welcome back. Now, in a fresh twist, the Federal High Court, Abuja, has ordered INEC to allow eligible voters with temporary voter cards participate in the March 18th governorship elections. Justice Obiora Iguatu, who gave the ruling on Thursday, predicated the order on the grounds that the plaintiffs were duly registered and captured in INEC's database. The court held that there was no portion of the law, both in the 1999 Constitution and the Electoral Act, that states that it was only permanent voter cards, that's PVCs now, that could be used for voting, but that the law under Section 47 provided for a voter's card. But INEC last night vowed to appeal against the court order now. The Chief Press Secretary to the INEC chairman, Rotimi Oyekomi, said the commission confirmed that INEC had been served with the court order, but was taking necessary steps now to vacate it. Vacated now at the trial court. INEC had repeatedly held that only eligible voters with PVCs would be allowed to vote in the 2023 presidential and governorship elections. So joining me now to discuss this is legal practitioner Gabriel now Ehigato, who joins us from Benin. Joining us on the program. Does this create some kind of confusion now, if you like, for INEC?
For us, the law is the law. The court is so supreme that it must give its own judgment and it must be obeyed. To me, I think INEC have not done the needful. Over time, INEC have, restricted power to themselves to just to run their own functionality without actually giving so unduly concentration to the law. What we know as lawyers is that a law must reflect the interests of the people. A law is not made for just for certain kind of reason. It's made for the generality of the people. And I think also where they've actually do the needful, because when you look at the law, even the Electoral Act says that a voter will only vote when he presents himself with a voter's card. It was not stipulated that it must be whether a permanent voter's card or a temporary voter's card. When you look at section 47, subsection 1 of the Electoral 2022 as amended, you will see it for yourself. It's very clear. It's one of the most fairness and simple interpretation of law in the Electoral Act, that a voter will be present at the polling unit, presenting himself with the voter's card to the presiding officer. So it is stipulated there must be a permanent voter card or a temporary voter card. But over the years, sir, since 2011 or so, INEC have, compared to themselves some powers, creating issues here and there, saying that you can only vote with the permanent voters card, and it's not in our law.
But then let me ask, how does INEC handle this, considering the fact that the BVAS accreditation before voting is allowed? That BVAS machine recognizes the permanent voter card. I'm just wondering if would it be possible, would a voter with a temporary voter card now who gets to the polling unit now, would that person be allowed to vote? Would the BVAS, for instance, be able to authenticate that voter?
Well, for me, I think if the BVAS could not capture a voter with a temporary voter's card, then I think there's nothing INEC can do about that. But I had some incident in the last general election, the one that we just concluded, the presidential election, where people came to polling unit with the temporary voter's card, and they were not allowed to vote. They were not allowed to vote. So it shows that INEC themselves haven't mind over time that you must vote with your permanent voter's card. I think that was because the beavers machine that came into innovation. That was where they were hammering on that. And do not also forget that some persons will actually refuse to go and collect their permanent voter's card. And also, they will also complain on the side of INEC. INEC were not proactive enough to provide the permanent voter's card for people. So for me, the court are giving an order that you cannot disenfranchise those with the permanent, with the temporary voter's card. But peradventure they come to the voting unit and the voting center, and the beavers machine is not able to capture them because they are temporary, that there's nothing. And I think that's why INEC are insisting that they must appeal the judgment.
Because I'm just wondering if INEC does not get, I mean, if this appeal does not sail through before the governorship election now, governorship and state houses of assembly elections scheduled for 18th, I'm just wondering, would INEC be running foul of the law, for instance, if people were to come, I mean, voters were to come with their temporary voter cards now, especially for the plaintiffs now who have gotten this judgment in their favor, if they were to go to polling units on election day on the 18th, and they are not allowed to vote because they don't have the permanent voter cards. I'm just wondering, what would
that's their vote that day. It means INEC will be disobeying the court order, and that will be a big amount INEC. And that can also, I don't they give judgment, and they also consider the circumstances, the effect, the outcome of such a judgment. But I think in this case, my lord, the Honorable Justice Obiora Eguta of the Federal High Court that gave that judgment, they actually look at the circumstances surrounding or the effect of the judgment they were going to give. So for me, I think the INEC officials should obey the court order, and subsequently, let's see what play out from.
When you say they should obey the court order now, I'm just wondering, of course, they've said they're going to appeal against it. But when you say that they should obey the court order, I'm just wondering whether they would be able to, for instance, configure the beavers to even recognize voters with temporary voter cards.
Yeah, in as much as you have to obey the law, you have to also allow the law to have its course. You must obey court order first. It is obey before you complain. As far as we speak, sir, the judgment given by the law court is what is sustainable. Or it is appeal, there's nothing anybody can do about it. If INEC know that if with those with the temporary voters can come to polling unit that they will not be allowed to vote, because after all the beaver machines are going to catch up there, the INEC should do the needful by appealing this judgment as soon as possible. But for INEC to relax themselves and that people with the temporary voters cannot go vote that day, there is going to be a very big issue for them. It's going to cause a lot of crisis at the polling unit. It's going to be create a lot of menace at the voting center. So for me, I will advise INEC to be as fast as possible appeal this judgment, because the judgment has already been given and the law must be obeyed. The court said that Section 47 of the Electoral Act provides that a voter can vote by the voter's card. It is stipulated that the permanent voter's card or the temporary voter's card. That is the law. That is the plain interpretation of the Electoral Act. And there's no way stated in our law that it must be a permanent voter's card to vote or a temporary voter's card. So for me, as far as I sympathize with INEC, but the law is the law. The court has given an order and it must be obeyed.
All right. Gabriel Higata, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for joining us on the program.
I appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. All right, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back. Stay with us.
Opinions are free, facts are sacred, but truth is universal.
How, in practical terms, can we, for instance, de-escalate the tension?
President must see himself as the president of the Federal